Lovely. Boxrima. Oh, hi everyone. I'm just making up some more of my nettles and dandelion weed tea. I've been putting dandelions in it because they're high in potassium, which encourages fruit and roots to grow, as opposed to just the nitrogen in the nettles. But it's been really important to remember to feed all of the plants, because right now, in the height of summer like this, a lot of things are growing really strongly.
Bok, I'm Mandy O. This is Grow, Make, Cook, and welcome to my garden. I grew up in Australia in a permaculture family, but after we got married, Mr. O and I moved here to his home country of Croatia. I am a passionate and hands-on homemaker and gardener, and I love life's simple pleasures. So join me on my journey, and together we can learn to grow, make, and cook. This is the third week in August, or Kolovoz.
Just going to pop the lid on that. So all I've done is pick a whole bunch of dandelions and nettle leaves and shove them in this container, put a lid on it, and then pop it aside for a while, because this is going to stink, but it'll ferment up nicely and make really good fertilizer for my plants. While these guys look fantastic on the bush, it's really important to pick ripe chilies. The lovely thing about fresh chilies is that they're fruity and rich in flavour. It's not just the heat that you're after. But if you don't pick them, the others aren't inclined to ripen. Down here, this looks really rather sorry and sad and like everything's dead, but this is for good reason. This here is my Vegeta, which has been a wonderful plant. This is that Croatian hybrid between root celery and parsley, and so it's quite a unique Croatian flavour of herb. And I am here trying to collect the very tiny seeds off of this plant, because it's biennial, which means this is its second year and it's gone over, and we've harvested it loads over the last 2 years, but now it's done. It's effectively dying. It's not quite dead yet, but it's close. And so what I've done is I've let it naturally dry, and in this summer heat it certainly has dried, and just go over quite gracefully. These seeds smell amazing. I wonder if you could even use these as a herb. Maybe you can. You can with celery, so you never know. But this is just the attempt to go on and do this again in the future, because it was such a hard plant to find. I really want to try and grow it on again and again and again. And so this here is planning for next spring. I'm also going to try sowing some of these seeds direct now. I have been told that Vegeta is quite hardy as opposed to some of its slightly more gentle cousins. It can handle the frosts of winter, or so I've been told. And so I'm going to collect as much as I can easily, and then sow some really soon, probably next week. While I'm on my seed collecting frenzy, and it's mostly because I need to clear all of these older plants out of this bed so I can get sowing for my winter and early spring crops. But what I've got here is my beetroot. Now, this is last year's beetroot. I only left one in the ground to go over, and beetroot has these large kind of corky, clumpy seeds, but each one of them is actually like a little group of seeds. So each little bobule that you can see there will make a couple of beetroot if it all germinates nicely. So We'll collect a whole lot of those, and in they go into paper as well. Now when you're collecting seeds, it's quite important that you put them into something that breathes. I sometimes use cotton bags, little ones that I sew up, much the same as I do for my scent bags, or paper. Paper's the other obvious choice. And this is so that the seeds can really dry. I mean, in this hot weather, they're fairly dry anyway, but you really want them to be 100% dry when you store them away, because if they're even a little bit moist, they'll either start to germinate or they'll rot off. And the last seed that I'm collecting here today is Balita, or silver beet, or Swiss chard, depending on where you're from. It's from the same family as beetroot, and it has very similar sort of large corky seeds. Not quite so round as a beetroot seed, but quite big, and also a cluster of seeds, so you kind of get that same effect. But the point of doing all this in this big group like this and clearing it out is that I really want to get ahead of myself. Last year I didn't do a very good job planning for my winter crops and even my early spring crops, the things that'll take us over into next year and feed us while the weather is cold. So I'm planning and saving my seeds and trying to get all of this figured out so I can give it at least a slightly better go this year. And now that I've filled up my little paper bag, it's really important to make sure that you fold the top firstly so I don't lose any out of it, and then label your seeds straight away so you don't forget what it is you've collected. So I have collected here Balita, and the date that you've collected it on, because seeds can kind of go over and you want to know when and what you've collected. Now that that job is done and my seeds are collected, I can start ripping these plants out, and it means I can take my plant support out. Now this one we made ourselves, and they're wonderful. They stop your plants from flopping everywhere, and we made this just out of some rebar because I flat refuse to pay the exorbitant prices that people that are selling these sort of things want to charge for it. So let's just make up another one now, and then we can go and support something else. Now, like the other things that I have built by bending, what you really want to do is just give your rebar a nice bend. Now that's probably about right. Use the tree to give me roughly the right angle and bend it as much as I can so that they're a little bit wonky, but bent around further so that my feet are kind of going in on each other, and then I'm just going to bend them upways, and I'm going to put something down on top. I'll show you. So all I'm doing is putting something heavy, a bit of board or an old bit of brick like I've got here will do the trick nicely, and then stomp on it to hold it down, and then bend your bits of rebar up. Now the beauty of making your own plant supports, straighten them up a bit, is that you can make them any and every shape you like. The other one that I was using is sort of thin and small and tall, so that it can hold up a smaller plant. And the one that I've just made now is quite a bit wider and quite a bit shorter to support a big fat plant. I want to go and prop up my lemon balm. So, even though this guy still has a lovely shape, he's been pruned back nicely, but he's actually shading out some of the other plants that I've planted down here. And so whilst it's not strictly necessary to support this guy, because he's got nice strong stems and he will hold a form on his own, he's just a little bit too rambunctious in this particular direction, and he's shading things out that I really want to keep going. So you can just sort of push him down, and I don't want to strangulate the poor thing. I don't want him to be in a tight straitjacket type of setup, but nor do I want him shading out my other plants. So this is kind of a compromise of sorts, I guess. And this guy can come in here and prop up these poor old tomatoes. I will tie them in, but they've really just gone and done a bit of a number. Get them in there, like that. It's so nice being back in the garden. It feels like I've been away for an eternity, and so many things have grown and changed while I was away. The eggplants have started to flower and the tomatoes have come into fruit, and everything just sort of feels like it's come alive. But I think that's probably about all we've got time for today. So if you like what we're doing, please like the video. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. And if you want notifications, use the bell icon below. Until next time then, do widzenia!